Costco, the massive store that a lot of us actually love frequenting. Have you been there recently, especially on a weekend? And it is all about the best possible credit card to use in Costco. Welcome to the Canada Credit Card Expert channel. We warmly welcome you today and definitely invite you to subscribe, and it would help the channel provide all the analysis and information to actually fit the best credit cards for you. Costco brick and mortar shops are slightly different to Costco.ca. What does that mean in terms of credit cards, obviously? Let's start with the main event, which is obviously brick and mortar. As you probably know, Costco brick and mortar shops would only accept a Mastercard, no Amex and no Visa. That would actually leave a lot of the other cards out, while even the Mastercards themselves would normally earn you 1-per-1, whether it's a cashback or points. And that means we would like to actually make it much better. Let's actually explore in an ascending way the credit cards are to actually give you enhanced earn ratio on frequenting Costco brick and mortar. Let's actually start by 1.5% on all your Costco shopping. We could think of the Westjet World Elite Mastercard. That is $119 a year, and that is also requiring $80,000 a year in annual income. If you do have this card or elected to have this card, that would probably do you a great favor when it comes to Westjet. So if you are involved with Westjet, that is a great card to actually use with Costco. That would give you 1.5% in Westjet dollars for every dollar spent at Costco. Another great card that would give you a minimum of 1.5% is the Rogers Red World Elite Mastercard. And although it requires $80,000 a year in income, it does come with no annual fee, which is slightly better than the Westjet by RBC World Elite Mastercard because it doesn't cost money. Now, what it is that you could actually be doing with Rogers Red, well, that particular credit card would actually give you 1.5% on all spending. But if you happen to actually have a service with Rogers, FIDO or Shaw, that rate will actually go up to 2%. Now we are talking 2% cashback on your Costco shopping. That is not a bad offer. Can we actually do any better than that? Well, that could possibly be the best credit card in Canada for brick and mortar Costco if you have Rogers, FIDO or Shaw as a service. If you're one client of these, then that would make perfect sense. No annual fee and 2% back. However, if you are not a client of Rogers, FIDO or Shaw, it will be 1.5%, and the next one up would be BMO World Elite Mastercard. $120 annual fee, normally waived in the first year and also waived if you have the premium account by BMO. The one thing about this particular card is that it is actually associated with Air Miles. The BMO World Elite Air Miles card is actually very useful if you have relationship with Shell or Instacart or some other partners of Air Miles. What are you going to earn with this card? This is the only card in Canada that has an accelerator earn ratio on wholesale clubs. When shopping in Costco, you will be earning 2 Air Miles per $12. And that means also that with redemption value of 10.5 cents for an Air Mile, we are talking about exactly 1.75%. Remember that with Air Miles, you could possibly slightly ameliorate this with some deals that Air Miles would have to the tune of up to 2%, but not more than that. So again, like with Westjet or with FIDO/Rogers, if you do have any type of relationship with Air Miles, that would be your default card as well. Now, we do have a co-branded credit card that is CIBC Costco credit card, but that would actually not make sense because all it earns in the brick and mortar Costco shop is 1% only. So that would be a great card if you're into Costco.ca, and we are going to touch on that in a brief moment. Before we are moving to Costco.ca, a word about those of us who are freaks of airline transfer points. Yes, we do have actually two credit cards in Canada, namely the Cathay Pacific World Elite Mastercard, as well as the Bream World Elite Mastercard, and that would mean 1 point, that is 1 mile with either Cathay Pacific or KLM Air France Flying Blue, that is respectively, which you might argue is 1 per 1, but again we could argue that that could be a great redemption when it comes to actually getting flights. Some of the deals, especially in higher cabins, would actually make a lot of sense. So it's not exactly 1% because obviously the value of these miles could be much higher. So now it's the time to actually move to the next thing, which is Costco.ca. Let's reintroduce this CIBC Costco Mastercard. Now that is, as mentioned, a co-branded one. And here, if you are into Costco.ca, you will be earning 2% cashback. And as we already actually saw beforehand, there are other cards that give you 2% of the one mentioned earlier. But this particular card would do one more thing for you. It will actually give you 2% on all gas stations and EV stations, as well as 3% on restaurants, and no annual fee whatsoever. So if you are into Costco.ca, that could start making some more sense. However, let's actually think about when are you going to see all these cashback / points. Well, in the case of CIBC, it's actually, how should we put it mildly, you have to be very patient. You only get your money as a gift card, basically a barcode. You will be getting it once a year on your January statement. So if you're very patient, the barcode, the gift card, could only be used with Costco. So some of you might say, well, that's not exactly for me, it's not my cup of tea, maybe I should go another route. Well, if you do actually elect to go another route, that would be, let's say, the Westjet card or the Rogers card or the Air Miles card, and each one of these we would definitely have their affiliation if you're into Westjet or Air Miles or Rogers or whatever the case is. But these cards would actually show you the cashback / points right away. So as soon as you actually spend the money, you'll be able to use your points. In the case of Rogers Red World Elite Mastercard, you'll have to wait until you get $10 in cashback to start using it. And by the way, if you actually decide to use the cashback money there, you'll actually get 50% bonus if you decide to use it towards any service of Rogers, Fido or Shaw. And that could be a massive value. That is magnified to 2%, turning it into virtually a 3%. So that is something you might want to consider. Let's move quickly into the Costco.ca scenario for those of you who are really into Costco.ca. Costco.ca will have, as mentioned, 2% with the co-brand, but also would open up the possibility of using Visa cards. Costco.ca allows Visa payments on top of Mastercard. And since we actually mentioned co-brand airline points, which work out to be more than 1% back, which means 1 mile would normally equate much more than 1 cent, especially if redeemed for a higher cabin such as business or premium, then the KLM Air France Flying Blue by Brim, as well as the Cathay Pacific World Elite Mastercard, could now be supplemented with another type of credit cards that allow points transfers into airlines. And we are talking about specifically about RBC Avion. While RBC Avion allows you to move points into American Airlines and Westjet, the redemption would not actually make a lot of sense as they are reduced. Westjet is pretty much 100 to 1, which is essentially 1 per one. Now, if you do have the RBC Visa Infinite Avion or Platinum, you'll be getting 1-to-1. Obviously, with American Airlines being a reduced rate of 0.7 to 1 Avion, that wouldn't make sense either. However, if you do have the RBC Avion card and wish to use it on Costco.ca, you could actually use it to transfer points to British Airways as well as Cathay Pacific. In fact, BA does have ongoing 30%, and ongoing we actually mean once a year or so, maybe twice a year sometimes, roughly 30% promos. So that would make the 1 point, that is 1 avio should we say really in proper English, 1.3 at least, and that actually means over 2% in cashback by means of having miles. Obviously, if you redeemed it to another type of redemption, it would be much higher. Cathay Pacific is exactly the same thing. 1 mile with Cathay Pacific would actually get you a value of roughly 175 cents, and that could be slightly ameliorated to the tune of roughly 10% on an annual or so promos by Cathay Pacific. So pretty much you could be using, on top of the cashback credit cards, for those of you who love airlines and points, in the case of brick and mortar, Flying Blue and Cathay Pacific co-branded card, and in the case of Avion in Costco.ca, you'll be able to use to transfer British Airways points and Cathay Pacific points. Mind you, all these co-branded credit cards are essentially annual fee, and if you're talking about Avion, also annual fee, as well as if we would like just to quickly mention RBC Visa Infinite Privilege on Costco.ca, that would make a hell of a sense if you are into British Airways and Cathay Pacific. We would like to thank you for your time today. We hope we definitely improved your shopping cashback points in Costco, and we will see you very soon.